we are cooking right on into the upgrade series here with the AAP-01. And today, the upgrades that I'm going to be putting in and installing are the TTI Hammer Set, and I figured why not pair it alongside all of the hammer springs. So I have the Jeff's Airsoft Spring Upgrade Set. A handful of these will be going in. Some of them are for different parts. We'll save those for another video. And then the stainless steel auto sear spring. Now, keep in mind, these two products are sponsored, so thank you, Jeff from Jeff's Airsoft and Skirm Shop USA for sending these out to me. This I picked up myself. Just a heads up, if you do choose to pick up any of these, I am leaving a link in the description that, paired with the code STUPIDAIRSOFT, will give you 5% off your entire purchase. They were kind enough to share that with me so I could share it with you. Plus, also, the entire description to every single part that I'm going to be putting into my AAP-01 for this marksman style build, or this DMR style build, is going to be there too, so you can follow it along if you do choose so. Ideally, this will be a completely uncut video. I'm just going to be installing these. I have installed all of these upgrades on my channel a handful of times now. This is just the first time that I'm going to be installing the hammer upgrades and the spring upgrades all at once, and I figured that's a good video because if you're going to pick up one, you may as well pick up the others. I personally think these are both essential upgrades. So let's get everything out of the box. We're going to remove a handful of these springs now. I'll show you which ones we're going to remove, if I can get this open, and then we'll put the rest back. We need, I think that's everything out of there. Yep, it is. Okay. So what we need is going to be the hammer spring. We'll put that aside for now. Or, I'm sorry, this is the trigger release spring, or the hammer release spring. This is your hammer spring. We need the little latch spring on the left side of the AAP-01. And then, if we put these guys back, because these are all going to be added in at another point in time. The next spring we need is a separate upgrade. This is for the auto sear. This auto sear spring is super crucial. Sometimes I've heard of people getting like a random burst fire or a random auto fire when they upgrade their hammer kit. And I believe that just has to do with the fact that the upgraded hammer is stainless steel, so it's a little heavier, and it's harder for that stock spring to retain its strength. And the reason we're upgrading all of these parts is because naturally so, the stock hammer parts wear down a lot, and the stock hammer on the AAP-01 breaks super easily. And also, all of the springs are going to be able to move these more fluently. Over time, those weaker springs tend to wear down a ton, and the parts don't function at the time that you want them to, or they could cause more wear on parts because they're not moving in an efficient manner, and it just keeps things more snappy. So let's add in our little thumbnail, why don't we? I'm gonna lay out all these parts first. So in this box you get the hammer, which is super shiny. You get the little hammer upgrade, like the nub at the top, the trigger latch, this little left side lever, I don't even know what that's called, honestly. This is your gas release, or your gas knock, and then of course your auto sear. We'll just line up all of the springs as well. And make sure that we're all focused. Perfect. Okay, let's get all of these parts out of the way, and then we'll break down the AAP, and we'll start installing it. We're basically, since every single part besides the pins are going to be taken out and the hammer housing, just going to completely strip it. So rack the bolt, pull that guy out, and now we've got to knock out these two pins. These two pins from every AAP that I've uninstalled should be super easy to punch out. Like, we shouldn't need any extra hammering and whatnot. It looks like they come out that way. So punch from left to right. And we'll put them back in that direction as well. It's important you do so. It helps them retain tension. And we'll just put those aside. Now with the pull of the trigger, there's a spring in here, be careful. But with the pull of the trigger and the press of this button, we should be able to pull that guy out. Be careful. I mean, I guess I don't really want to lose these, but we're upgrading them, so we'll just go ahead and throw those up top. Cool. Now that we have our entire hammer out and ready to play, we have to start breaking it down. And in order to do so, we're going to remove the auto sear first. So place a finger on top of here because there's a spring under it. It's spring-loaded tension. And you'll notice this pin punches out from right to left, the smaller side up at the top. That pin will just slide on out. And then the auto sear and spring should pop off as well. And then there's your auto sear. Next, we're going to unlatch this spring. So go ahead, push the hammer down, pull this spring out from the gas valve or the gas knock, and then this pin should just punch out one direction, and that'll release that spring, and I guess that trigger piece is still stuck with that pin. All right, put your finger on the hammer, put your finger on the back, punch this pin out now, because that's under spring tension. And then all of your hammer components and whatnot should pop right out. There's your hammer and hammer spring. And then there's both your gas knock and that trigger lever. So I brought you in a little closer with the hammer housing, the flat pin that looks like a screwdriver. The first part we're going to install is the upgraded auto sear and the upgraded auto sear spring. Now you'll notice with a lot of Jefe's parts, these springs have one ledge that is much more aggressive than the others. Shooting that out of the way, oops. One ledge that's much more aggressive than the others, and that just increases tension on the spring. You can see that bend on the silver one. So the springs will have a little bit more of a like a stronger spring back on these heavier parts, which is super beneficial. And I don't know if you could see it, but that large bend is out in the front, and then that straight edge is up inside the top of the AAP-01 auto sear up that direction. We're gonna crank our fingers on top of this guy, make sure we don't lose its position, and we're going to get that arm of the spring to sit on this flat edge of the hammer housing. It can definitely be a little tricky, and once you have it in place, now take that pin and push it in from the left side with obviously the flat end facing you, and you're going to want to make sure that sits all the way in. Sometimes you got to wiggle the auto sear around just a little bit. Cool. Okay, and now just to make sure that you have it installed correctly, there should be an added spring tension to the auto sear. Next, we're going to take the hammer, the pin that goes in the hammer, the pin that holds the hammer in place, and the hammer spring. If we take the hammer, install this pin like that, and the spring has to sit in this orientation with the shorter nub or the shorter extrusion of the spring sitting on top of this mound of the hammer around the big pin hole, and then the arc of the spring should be at the top of the coil facing forwards to the front of the hammer. The entire thing needs to get into the hammer housing, and we're going to install this pin to hold it halfway in place. I go in from the top, and we have to get the spring, that arm of the spring, to rest on the left wall, that flat part of the hammer housing. You see that? Just like that. Kind of see the scratch marks from it. Now, it's a pain in the butt to get in place. So what I usually do is I'll find something that I can kind of pry against it to line up the holes. It is not easy to do, but if you can get it to line up correctly, you can get this pin in place. We're going to throw the pin at the top and then just pry the hammer forward to line everything up. Perfect. And you see how the pin is holding it in place, but it's not coming through the hammer all the way? That's essential, because now what I'm going to do is install the little gas block piece. This guy releases your gas from your mag. We're just going to take it, insert it this direction with the triangle facing the bottom, and the pin is going to go through that top hole in just a second. If you put it through the front, like this, from the back side, that little square edge should pop right through the front with a little bit of force. It shouldn't take a lot of force. Perfect. You see that? And it'll be pretty loose. Now we just have to line it up with the pin, and we'll push that pin through the rest of the way. Looks like we're making our way in. We'll just put this guy on the other side to straighten it out while we push the pin through. Cool. All right. And the pin should be just popping out the edge on the other side. So now that you have everything set up the way it's supposed to be, again, both pins are inserted into the hammer assembly. There should be some spring tension on the hammer. There should be some spring tension on the sear. And of course, this guy up in the front should be nice and loose. And everything should be set in place. What we're going to do now is grab this piece, this funky looking spring, oops, and this just straight like rod pin. We're going to take this piece and we're going to install it just like this, with the hole down and that notch on the right side, so that that little edge sits up on the top right here. Then we'll take the spring with the flat edge on the right side and the bent edge facing us on the left side, and we'll install it like that. And that spring needs to sit on top of that nub on the inside of the hammer assembly. The smartest thing to do now is get that pin in place. So you want to make sure it goes on the top hole through both the spring and the steel hammer piece, and then just pull the hammer. Hold on, we got to make sure that's up in the front. That is not up in the front. You see how that spring piece moved to the wrong location? There you go. Now the spring is up in the front of that metal protrusion. Then we're going to pull the hammer back, which will give us free movement in that gas release piece. And we want to bend that spring back until it gets stuck right where it's supposed to be. Now, I find personally it's easiest to depress the hammer now, or release the hammer now, just because now this piece will sit in smooth and it won't feel like it's going to pop out when we reinstall everything. We're just going to install that little latch piece and then the spring at the base of it. And if you keep your finger over the spring, there should be spring tension to it. And now we're ready to go. We should just be able to reinstall it into the grip of the AAP-01. Pull the mag back out. Keep a finger on top of that piece with the spring. Pull the trigger back. And you want the trigger to sit just on the right side of the hammer and far enough back so that it can't go backwards anymore. It also has to get flush with the mag well. So press this button in, press it on down into place, and as long as it latches on the back of the button and it's flush at the base of the mag well, you know you've installed it correctly. Now we'll just push both of our pins in from the right side. So chubby pin on the bottom, that barbell style pin on the top. Can't even tell you how many times that I've taken AAPs apart. Just make sure those pins are flush. And then when we drop the hammer, it should release. And we'll just go ahead and test to make sure that it works the way that we want it to. Just throw the top on, pull the trigger, and the hammer drops. Hold the trigger, the hammer releases, and then drops again. If we switch it into full auto, we should notice that again, the hammer drops, but when we hold the trigger this time, it doesn't reset at all. So that means we installed everything correctly. And now we've upgraded all of the springs and all of the hammer parts inside of the AAP-01. Perfect. Thanks for tuning in. I know that was one of the episodes that I've upgraded these parts so many times now. I think 3 times with the hammer parts on my channel alone, and then I've also done the spring upgrades in the TP22. So this time we combined them both together for this piece, but those are essential upgrades for any AAP. If you're going to upgrade anything, start with those. The hammer upgrades and then the spring upgrades. Then go to the hop up. But for now, that's part 1 of the upgrade series. Wait till we turn this into a marksman rifle. I'll see you guys in the next adventure.